So now, students, we were revising chapter 1 of History Grade 10, the rise of nationalism in Europe, and the topic which we have to discuss today is the new conservatism after 1815. So, you know, after the fall of Napoleon in 1815, when he was defeated in the Battle of Waterloo by all the European big powers, that is Britain, Persia, Russia and Austria together. So after that, again the conservative order came in Europe in 1815. So now, first of all, let's define the conservatism. What do you mean by conservatism? So it's a political philosophy. So it is a political philosophy, the set of beliefs that stress the importance of tradition. So here they used to lay, the conservatives, they used to lay stress on the importance of tradition and establish institutions and customs and preferred gradual change rather a quick change. So here it was that kind of political philosophy which used to lay stress on the tradition, and they used to respect the established institutions and customs, whichever established institutions are there of the monarchy, churches, their family, so all this private property. So they used to respect these kind of established institutions, and they preferred very gradual, very slow change to the development. So basically conservatives, they were the supporters of the monarchy, the aristocracy class, then the elite class, monarchs. So these all come under the conservatives. So now conservatives believe that established traditional institution of state and society like monarchy, church, social hierarchies, the social positions, the levels, property and family should be preserved. So these conservatives, they were of the belief that these institutions, that is monarchy, church, then social hierarchies, property, family should be preserved. That it is not that overnight change is there and radical change is there and you should overthrow these kind of institutions. No, their ideology was that a very slow reform, a very slow change, a gradual change should be there. Most of the conservatives now did not propose a return to a society of pre-revolutionary days. Now, after the revolution of 1789 and after the changes, that in 1804 civil code of Napoleon, most of these conservatives also started liking the changes which were initiated by the Napoleon, and they also now don't want to return to a society of pre-revolutionary days. Why? Because they also came to know by this time that change is inevitable. The changes will be there and we have to move along with the changes, and we have to provide certain concessions to the people, otherwise we will be suppressing the people and again they will protest and again we will repress. So this cycle will continue. So it's better that we should strengthen the monarchy system, we should bring the reforms in the monarchy system. So how they can bring reform in the monarchy system? By making the efficient bureaucracy, dynamic economy, by bringing reforms in the army. So by taking these steps, by removing the serfdom, by abolishing feudalism. So these were the major problem. These were the main exploitation was done of the majority of the population who were peasants. So if these kind of concessions can be given, then people will also be very happy. Now in conservatism after 1815, we have to see Treaty of Vienna 1815, which was signed in Austria, that is Vienna, and the Vienna Congress was called by the Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. So after the fall of Napoleon, the Treaty of Vienna was signed between all the powers, European power who defeated the Napoleon. So now we have to see the provisions of the Treaty of Vienna. So this treaty was signed to undo most of the changes that were brought by the Napoleon in the Europe. So to delete those changes which Napoleon brought, the aim of this treaty was this only. So according to this treaty, again the Bourbon dynasty again came in France. It was again restored and conservative order again came in Europe in 1815. So again the Bourbon dynasty was restored in France, and France lost all the territories annexed by the Napoleon. So France lost all the territories which was annexed by the Napoleon. Series of states were set up on the series of states were set up on the borders of the France in order to prevent the future expansion by France. So north was given to the Netherlands, south was given to the Piedmont, west was given to the Persia, and east was given to Russia, and northern Italy was given to Austria, and Poland was given to Russia. So these kind of arrangements and division was done, and the German Confederation of 39 states was left untouched. So these were some of the provisions of the Treaty of Vienna. Then after that, we have seen that the conservative order which came in 1815, they were autocratic. They were very strict now, and they will not accept any criticism, any disagreement against them, and they will not allow anybody to question their authority and anybody to question their legitimacy. So now, in order to do this, they impose the censorship. So the first task which they have done, they have imposed the censorship. Everything is banned. No circulation of the printed material will be there against the monarchy. So now the regime which came, they were very, you can say, strong, and they were very, you can say, they were criticizing a lot. They were very strong, and they came with very firm measures that we will not allow now any disagreement against us, because they have seen what was the influence of the philosopher during the French Revolution, when the ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity, it circulated among the masses. Then after this, now because of the fear of this monarchy, many of the revolutionary, they went underground. So because it was very difficult at that time to give challenge to the monarchy, so the fear of repression drove many revolutionaries underground. But their aim was still, their aim was the nation making, creation of the nation state, and they started working for it secretly by setting up the secretly societies. So such kind of societies sprang up in many parts of the Europe. Secretly they were working. So here many revolutionary societies, they sprang up, and here one revolutionary which we have to study is Giuseppe Mazzini. Now he was Italian revolutionary, and his aim was the unification of Italy. In 1830 he has already attempted a revolution in Liguria, that is Italy. He was born in Genoa in 1807, and already at the age of 24 in 1830 he has attempted one revolution in Liguria, because of which he was sent in exile, and in 1831, and then subsequently he formed the secret societies, Young Italy in Marseilles and Young Europe in Bern. So now he believed in the unification of Italy, and the Metternich described him as the most dangerous enemy of our social order, that is the conservative order. So Mazzini described him as the most dangerous enemy, that is Metternich described Mazzini as the most dangerous enemy of our conservative social order. So this was about Mazzini, a short note on Mazzini, or one mark question like which secret societies were founded by Mazzini. So it's Young Italy and Young Europe in Bern. So now students, the age of revolution, we have to see that this period, the age of revolution 1830 to 1848, that in Europe this period from 1830 to 1848 was called the period of revolution, because so many protests started in the Europe by the educated middle class, by the workers, by the peasants. So all were very fed up with the absolute monarchical system there in the Europe. So many protests started, so many upheaval happened in the Europe. So we have to see first the July upheaval of 1830, which started in France. So again, the first upheaval in Europe started in France only, that is July Revolution of 1830. So again, the same conditions were there which were there in the 1789, the shortage of food and all these problems were there. So the first spark started in France in 1830, and with this it established the Bourbon kings were overthrown, and now the constitutional monarchy came in France with Louis Philippe as its head. So now the constitutional monarchy is subject to parliament, the powers of the monarch will be limited, and the head was Louis Philippe. So now Metternich remarked that when France sneezes, the rest of the Europe catches cold, meaning that whenever any event started in the France, it spread to other parts of the Europe also. The same event started in other parts of Europe also. So from the same period, that is 1830 to 1831, the uprising started in Brussels, and due to this, the uprising which started in Brussels, the Belgium gained independence, and Belgium walked away from the kingdom of Netherlands. So they gained their independence because of the uprising which started in France. Belgium also got their independence. The next event which we have to see is the Greek War of Independence. So the Greece had been the part of the Ottoman Empire since 15th century. They were under the control of the Ottoman Empire. And if you remember the Ottoman Empire, that is the Turkish Empire, that is the Muslim Empire, and it is very difficult for the Europeans, Christians, to live under the authority of Muslims. So the Western European country, they were having sympathies for the Greek culture, because Greek used to be considered as the central hub of this European civilization. So many Western countries, many Europeans, many Greeks who were there in exile, they also helped the Greece to fight their independence. So the struggle started in 1821, and the English poet, that is Lord Byron, he also organized many funds for the Greek War of Independence, and he died in 1824 when he was fighting for the struggle of Greek War of Independence. And finally in 1832, due to the Treaty of Constantinople, Greece was recognized as an independent nation. So you can see whatever even started in the France from the 1830, it spread to other parts of the Europe. Belgium got their independence, and Greece also in 1832 they also gained their independence from the Ottoman Empire. So due to the spread of the romantic nationalism feeling, romantic nationalism and disintegration of Ottoman Empire also started. Then the next is romantic imagination and the national feeling. So here nationalism, the feeling of nationalism can also be built through culture. Okay, this unity can also be brought through culture. Not only wars and territorial expansion help in building this feeling, but culture also plays a very important role in binding the people of different communities together in the to increase the sense of nationalism among them. So romanticism, the cultural movement in art and literature, it started, and here we have to study the John and Gottfried. So he was German philosopher, and he said that in order to know the common culture of the German people, you have to go among the Das Volk. Das Volk means the common people. So they used to say, the John and Gottfried, German philosopher, they used to give importance to the folk culture, to the folk song, folk dances, poetry, and they used to criticize lot of science, and means these romantic artists, they used to say that the stress should be given on the emotions, the feelings, mystic feelings, love. So these things should be uplifted, and stress should be given to these kind of feelings, rather than giving more stress on the logic, reasoning and science. So this was the viewpoint of this romantic artist. And Volksist, here the term is Volks, this is also written, which means nation. Then after that we have seen the case of Poland, and according to Treaty of Vienna, you remember, Poland was given to Russia, and here the vernacular language also played a very important role in binding the people, because at that time illiteracy rates were very high in Europe. So the promotion of the nationalism was also done in the native language. Like Poland case is given here, which was under the dominance of Russia. So the Russian authorities, they imposed Russian there, and they abolished the use of Polish there in the churches and the schools. But still many composers were there. Polish composer, that is Karol Karpinski, he celebrated his struggle through his operas, and he converted the Polish folk dances, that is mazurka and polonaise, into the nationalist struggle symbols. That he used to celebrate the struggle of their independence through these folk dances also, that is polonaise and mazurka. So these are the Polish dances. And the Polish priest, the clergy, Polish clergy, they refused that we will not preach in Russian, we will preach only in Polish in our churches. And as a result, the punishment was given to them by the Russian authorities, and all these priests, clergy, they were sent to Siberia as a punishment. So here we have seen the use of language as a weapon of resistance and opposition, which is used by the Polish people. Means that if they were under the Russian domination, it does not mean that they have left their language, music and culture. They still kept their feelings of nationalism alive through their culture, through their arts, through their folk dances, operas, music and language. So after this, now The next we have to see the topic hunger, hardship and popular revolts. So what kind of conditions were there? Means the year 1830s were of great economic hardship year in the Europe, and after this we have seen in the year 1848 the same conditions again were there. The same conditions were there in the Europe as of the 1789 again in 1848. So the hunger, a lot of hunger was there, population was increasing, and the supply of food was very less because of the bad harvest. Prices were increasing, unemployment was there, people were there on the roads, and they were struggling, they were suffering a lot because of these kind of conditions, and industrialization was going on, urbanization, people migrated from rural to the urban area because they were looking for the opportunities, and then the industrialization process was there. So due to this, means the demand of the industrial product, it also increased. So and small producers, they got affected. So these were the many causes because of which the people were suffering. And when people suffer, if these kind of conditions are there, they are hungry, and dissatisfaction is there, so they revolt. And the same thing happened again in France in 1848. So the people, the population, the protesting people, they came on the streets, and Louis Philippe, the constitutional monarch, it ran away. And 1848, finally France became republic. Now the universal adult male suffrage was given to all the males, irrespective of wealth, all the males above the 21 years of age, and right to work was guaranteed. For that, national workshops were established in France in 1848. And after that, this was the major change which came, and throughout the other parts of the Europe, that is Cilicia in the Persian region, again the revolt was there by the weavers. They revolted because contractor reduced their payments, and because they were at the mercy of the contractor, they were not having any source of their livelihood, so they were working for the contractor, and contractors exploited this situation. So that's why a lot of revolts were there. So throughout the Europe, the hungry people, the peasants, the workers, the weavers, they were revolting. And now we have to see finally the revolt of the liberals, the educated middle class. The educated middle class revolt was also underway in Germany. Okay, so what were the demands basically of the educated middle class? They wanted constitution, they wanted representative government, they wanted government by consent, then they wanted constitution should be there, and this end of autocracy and clerical privileges, and these were the demands: freedom of association, freedom of press. So these were the demands of the liberal educated middle class, which they were demanding throughout the Europe. And in 1848 they also revolted, and German National Assembly was formed. 831 members were elected. So middle class people in Germany, they came together and they formed the German National Assembly. 831 members were there, and they moved in a festive procession to take, when the Frankfurt Parliament was called in the Church of Saint Paul, and they went there in the festive procession, and when they have drafted the constitution, and they have offered to the Friedrich Wilhelm, the king, he was Friedrich Wilhelm IV, to him they have offered this crown. And he rejected this offer because in the constitution they were limiting the powers of the monarch, that is subject to parliament. So at that time, he called monarch take the help of aristocracy, military, and the social basis of the parliament was eroded because within the middle class, the wealthier middle class did not accept the demands of the artisan and peasant. So that's why they also withdrew their support, and whatever liberal initiative was taken by the German National Assembly, it was suppressed in 1848. So this we have seen. But still many issues were there, and one of the most important issue was of the women voting rights. And the liberals, they talk of everything, means their ideology was good, except one thing, they don't talk of the women voting rights. They just stress on the universal male suffrage, and they denied the voting rights to the women. And when German National Assembly was elected, at that time also women were not given any voting rights. And when Frankfurt Parliament was called, at that time also women women were just standing in the visitors gallery when the Frankfurt Parliament was called. So women were not allowed to sit, they were just standing in the visitors gallery. So these conservative forces, they were able to suppress the liberal movement of 1848, but they were not able to restore the old order, because by that time 1848, after this, the monarchies also came to know that change is inevitable and we have to give certain concessions to the people as given in the Western European monarchies. So now the Central and the Eastern European monarchies, they also started giving concessions to the people, and they started abolishing serfdom, feudalism, and this we have seen in the Habsburg Empire, in the dominions of Russia, Habsburg Empire. They have given more autonomy to the Hungarians in 1867.